Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3.
I'd like to officially declare the April 22nd meeting of the Patton Township Supervisors open. Those who are able, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody to this meeting. I'd like to note the obvious that 3 board members are not here physically, but they are joining us virtually on Zoom. I would also like to say that at this time, I do want to welcome the newest of our supervisors, Anita Tees. If you could please wave from your virtual self. We are very lucky and very honored to have you join us as one of the supervisors. So welcome. And I would also like to note to our all of our viewers or anybody in the room that this is the moment for public comment. If you happen to be listening from afar, there are 2 ways of contact directly, and I'm not sure which is which, but they're in front. One is the phone number. That phone number goes to who?
Right there.
Right here.
Okay, so the phone number, I'll read it, but it's also posted in front. The phone is 814-996-4260. You may make a comment at this moment, public comments, or you may request to make a comment at any point during the meeting by calling that number. You may also submit a comment or question via email, and that is also listed up front. It's rather long, I'm not going to say it. Let's see. So at this moment, are there any comments from the public that are not related to an item that is already on the agenda?
I have no comments.
Okay.
Via email or phone.
Okay, and nobody's jumping up in the audience here. So seeing none, we will go on to item 3. I will note that we have changed the format. To those of you who are creatures of habit and notice the predictable schedule that we go through in board meetings, we are turning that on its head, and we are first is essentially going to address all items that require action from the board. And we will start with actually 2 requests from Walmart. The first one is the request for a temporary use permit for a tent sale, and that would be from the dates of July 1st to September 30th. Walmart has requested this before. We have granted it in the past, and they are seeking an additional temporary use permit. And we will, I guess, get a brief
Nicole,
from staff.
were you prepared to do a brief intro on this?
It was going to be pretty brief, and Betsy covered most of it, but
Okay.
I did want to mention that the sale would run from the beginning of July or the permit would run from the beginning of July to the end of September. As she mentioned, this is something they've done in the past. The Planning Commission did recommend this for approval. And then I did see with the updated agenda that the manager sent out that there has been a resident letter added to the materials. So I just wanted to make sure everyone had a chance to look that over as well.
Yes.
That letter is quite critical of this.
Yes. It is. Would anybody on the board like to speak about that letter, summarizing it and or responding to it?
Anita has her hand up.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
And do I have my volume on?
Yes, you do. We can hear
Okay,
you.
thank you. Yes, I wanted to speak to the letter. I thought on the good side, Kathleen Dominic and Brian Henry took the time to read the agenda online and respond as concerned citizens. I think that kind of citizen response for every issue is really commendable. As I understand their letter, they are asking the board to defer action on the tent sale until the Pennsylvania stay-at-home order has been modified or rescinded. I think as I've looked at the letter, and I'm grateful for them to bring up an issue that maybe they didn't speak to directly, but I think is at the heart of their concern, and that is how will all of the businesses here in our area respond when there is an increase in customer traffic. And I think the issue is whether Penn State is going to permit students to return to campus in the fall. And I have a question which we won't have to discuss now, but if we've heard when Penn State will be making that decision, if the students come back, they're going to shop in businesses that are open. And so I don't think even if we postponed decisioning on the tent sale or denied it, that wouldn't stop the students from shopping. The greater question for all businesses is how they can make their customers and their staff safe as possible if the virus crisis is still continuing. And I've personally been impressed with some of the adaptive thinking that Walmart has done. I'm one of the customers who uses their curbside grocery pickup. And I noticed that they have increased their staff on that. The staff wears masks, they get their temperature taken before they come out. I've talked to the staff who loads the groceries, and they've made steps for monitoring their foot traffic. So I would presume and hope that Walmart would be doing additional planning, adaptive planning, to address the key question that faces all businesses, which is how do you address the possible danger of high density gatherings if you have a swarm of new customers coming back. I'm not sure that's something the township can regulate, but I would hope that there would be, as part of their planning, additional ways that they would seek to have the staff and the customers feel confident about their precautions. I don't know, for instance, if it's possible that if the students come back, could Walmart institute a second curbside pickup on the other side of the building just for the college supplies? Or could they do part of their parking lot as a new foot traffic area to maintain social distance? I would imagine that Governor Wolf will be issuing additional guidelines for businesses as the restrictions are lifted. But I thank the Kathleen Dominic and Brian Henry for raising the issue in the letter. I'm not sure the township really has means to prohibit or deny Walmart their request, but it raises a good point for all businesses. How will they, in their planning, adapt to deal with returning students?
Thank you so much for those comments. I think the questions about businesses in general, dealing with crowds in general, is a conversation that will be ongoing. We're not addressing that specifically right now, though it is always of concern. Any other comments specifically on the interest or on the request to from Walmart for the use permit for the tent, which is 20 feet by 40 feet and will sit outside of the store to the left of the main entrance, as I understand it? Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, I see Elliot. Yes, Mr. Abrams, thank you.
I agree with Anita, and I also agree with you. I think I'd like to make a motion that we approve this.
Repeat.
Say that again?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this.
Oh, I'll second.
Thank you. Any additional comments on that?
Yeah, let me just ask.
Please, and we haven't
We
had
have the
comments from-
Walmart manager here. If
I would like to. yeah.
she could address this particular concern that Ms. Tees raised, and have you thought about how you could ameliorate or maintain social distancing in a big tent like that with traffic coming in, not?
Well, the traffic in the tent doesn't have to be used for actual shopping.
Can
It
I
could be-
get
I'm
you
sorry.
to just state your name and your address or your?
Sure. My
company
name's
re-
Lexi Morelli. I'm a store manager for Walmart on North Atherton Street.
Thank you, yes.
Is it okay if I pull this down for a second?
It's fine, yeah.
Okay. Well, in regards to the tent doesn't have to be open for shopping. The tent can be used for a multitude of things, and in the past, we've used it for a shopping situation for a clearance sale in the middle of the summer. But we've also used it for storage for bulk items like pallets of water and different things like that, so that we can easily access them. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that we open for business, and honestly, last year I didn't use it at all. We strictly asked for the permit as a precautionary area to overflow merchandise. So while I appreciate their concern for July 1st, I think I'm optimistic that we'll even be close to a normal business by July 1st. That would be a dream. Honestly, to stand before you and ask for the containers again is a very precautionary tale in itself. I haven't put together a book. I haven't even put together my order for what the students would require to move back and have even a remote portion of that.
Let's just wait on the containers, which is a
Okay.
separate
Certainly.
motion, but yes.
Sure.
We'll get right into that.
Thank
So-
you.
But in regards to the
Thank you.
6-foot shopping, I would imagine that if we needed to, we could further carry the metering out to the tent if that was necessary. But currently, the metering strategy works very well for our company, and it's easily accessible on a tablet and not hard to run at all, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Sure.
Any other discussion by the board, of members of the board? And I'm going to ask Doug to help see.
Hello.
Hello, Pam, yes, please.
I just want to put on record that, our board has reviewed the letter and that, we are thinking and appreciating the comments from our residents and their concerns at this time. When it first came on board and I read it, I thought the same thing about the distancing. But after reviewing and seeing measures that are in place, I think we'll be okay if we approve this. Follow up to make sure, the distancing is in place.
Thank you for that, and I would just like to add one more comment that I think characteristically a tent, thinking of tent being outside, conjures up images of a large, I think they use the word tent sale, a large gathering and a celebratory event with a lot of people. It's not necessarily that. I've seen certainly pictures of it, and it's actually quite cramped, so it would be hard to get a lot of people in. We have a motion and a second. Any additional comments? If not, I'll call for the question. Those in favor of the granting the permit?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it, and again, thank you to the citizens who voiced their concern. We are going on now to a closely related item. Walmart is asking for a temporary use permit, this time for storage containers, and the date's the same, actually from June 1st to September 30th. These are, I believe it's 18 storage containers.
No.
12, I'm sorry.
38.
38, okay, sorry, I just can't read fast enough. Divided, equal sides of the stores, they sit in the back. They, in the past, have garnered some concern from a citizen who lives, in fact, on Clearview Avenue, directly behind the storage containers, and that those complaints centered around noise that occurred outside of the officially allotted operation hours. So we have, in wording this permit, put together stipulations that need to be adhered to very strictly, emphasizing the restriction on the hours and also the immediate removal of the storage containers after the permit has expired. And those will be enforced by the zoning officer and regular patrols by the Township Police Department. We had that in place last year and it worked quite well. Walmart was very compliant. Are there any comments now from the board concerning this and/or from the Walmart representative?
I think Anita has her hand up.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Dan. Anita, thank you. Yes.
I have a question for the Walmart representative. The one storage unit is there by the curbside grocery pickup, and you've been doing, congratulations, a wonderful job on having multiple cars at your curbside grocery pickup. Do you see any challenge with having the one storage unit there right so close behind where people are driving in for the pickup, since it's during the same hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.?
It's actually behind where we park, so that actually backs up into my dock area, or it should be. If it's drawn a different way, that's incorrect. The only trailers you should see on the back side of my store, on the side where you utilize grocery pickup, should be on the flip side. So if we
let me see if I can get.
if we have that, that's an error. Because you're absolutely right, we don't have room to park people safely, and they expanded my parking area over there to accommodate additional requests. Okay, so the red area actually loops back. That's where my receiving bays are. So
Yeah,
that
this
would
is-
not inhibit the online grocery pickup at all.
Yeah,
The reason
that's-
it's there right now is because, to your point, online grocery has actually expanded, and the app has actually merged to have both general merchandise and grocery on it. So there's different things that you can get that aren't necessarily grocery items that are available for online grocery pickup. And those larger items take up a substantial more amount of space. And we were trying to have them be readily available should they need to be able to access them quickly, and to keep up with the whole point of the convenience that comes with online grocery pickup.
Answer your question?
Does that help? Yeah.
Yes.
Pam's got it.
Pam?
Oh, great. Thank you. Good thing we've got extra eyes here. Thank you.
I'm pleased to see that the township application from the residents' complaints and issues were reviewed and taken into consideration about this application. Everything that was brought to this board, they addressed and is put in place. And thank you to Walmart for following up.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
We try to be a good partner. Thanks for the opportunity.
Any other comments or?
Mr. Abrams.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Got a lot to look
I'm
at.
wondering, I know normally we say 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., but are there any attempts to like thin out the crowds or spread them out? Since those months, the sun's out till 8:45, whether we should relax the ending time for that and make it 8 or 9 p.m. There's a lot of people who still.
That would certainly help with stocking the store, and given the circumstances, if these social distancing is still in place and we have our hours open to that degree, that's something we would gladly entertain. Things that they're discussing at the home office that are not official yet are that they are considering not making my business a 24-hour business, and in the past we have stocked overnight, so we won't be able to, it's not likely, let me refrain, that we'll be open till midnight or late into the night. We're going to be constantly evaluating our hours of operation. So the time that people will have to shop in our store could be greatly condensed as in comparison to previous years. Mm-hmm. And in previous years, when students were shopping with us, they still did shop very heavily into 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So the opportunity to bring in additional merchandise while the sun is still out would be tremendously appreciated.
That's completely at the discretion of the board.
Absolutely, but,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll make whatever we
I
can
was,
work.
I was suggesting we do that.
Well, you're suggesting that we amend, that we extend at this
Here,
point?
Because the circumstances that the ending time should be 9 PM.
On the second bullet, he changed where it says 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
I'm reluctant to do that at this time. I think it's premature right now, Elliot. I mean, the applicant can come back and request an extension, and we can review it then and make sure the residents on Clearview Avenue are aware of this request, because the residents, all they know right now is that the applicant asked for 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So we're not giving them an opportunity to react to an extension to 9 p.m. So that's why I'm thinking it's premature to consider that.
I just want to say, I agree with Dan, and I'm certainly on the record being very amenable to considering extended hours upon request. And now, Elliot, yes, Mr. Abrams.
In response to Dan's comment, all I can say is that I withdraw my request and I'll make it later, depending on what the circumstances are.
Great, okay.
Okay.
So I'll entertain a motion to extend this permit.
I'll move that we
Or grant
accept or approve the temporary use permit for storage containers from June 1st through September 30th.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, any additional discussion? Oh, right there. Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor of the temporary use permit signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. So you have both your permits.
Thank you very much.
And thank
Have
you
a
for
great
your
evening.
presentation.
Just for the record, Mr. Peger says there were no public comments provided.
Okay, thank you. I forget to.
He'll notify us if there are
I
any.
will chime in.
Okay,
I will not be shy.
all righty. That brings us to item C, deadline for payment of township real estate taxes, and I will turn that over to either the manager or the finance manager to describe and present.
I guess I'll do this since I
Okay.
put it together. Early in April, the Center County Board of Commissioners took action to change the deadline payment for payment of their real estate taxes. The payment at what we call face value, which is the amount that's on your bill, generally is due at the end of June. The county commissioners took action to extend that to September 30th. The commissioners did keep in place the deadline to pay taxes at the 2% discount rate, which that deadline is the end of April. That's basically, just as a side note, we learned that on Monday, there was legislation that was enacted by the governor. It's called Act 15 of 2020 now. One of the pieces of that was that if taxing districts want to extend those deadlines further, they do have that ability now. So at this point, there is a resolution that was included in the agenda to match what the county did, that is extend our face period from the end of June to the end of September. Following that, then the 10% penalty would apply. I would say if the board wants to consider additional extensions, we should probably coordinate that with the other taxing bodies in the area, and that could be undertaken at a later date if the board so chooses.
So it's my understanding that the latest date then without penalty is September
September 30th,
30th.
yes.
And
Also, Doug, I believe that the other State College Borough and Ferguson Township have also.
Yeah, they have taken action similar to what's been proposed for Patton Township.
I'll move that we pass Resolution 2020-009 to
Second.
authorize these extensions.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Yes, I think Elliot second.
Is that Elliot second?
Yeah, he's
I think
seconded.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the sound is broken up. Okay. Any discussion by other board members?
Well, I agree that we should do this and be consistent with the other municipalities that have already passed these extensions, so that all the citizens, Patton Township citizens, will be treated the same way as the county
I agree.
and State College Borough.
Yeah, I strongly support this resolution. Any other comments?
Yes,
That's a need.
I also support it, and I have a question which maybe fits more when we talk about budget. My question is that since 60% of the taxpayers pay early to get the discount, kudos to them, a delay for our receiving the other 40% for 3 months. My question is, if that cash flow is delayed for 3 months, which I support, what will that mean in terms of impact to the budget? But perhaps that question is better held when we get to discussing a revision of the 2020 budget.
I agree with the latter. We will get to that, definitely. And I know that we have some opinions and facts
Yes.
to go along with that. So, yes, thank you for bringing that up, though. It's always on our mind. I might add that you might check over the wording on one of the whereases that says the governor extended his mandated closure, blah, 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 through April 30th. Is that now May 8th? He had an extension. You might want to just check on that. Probably doesn't much matter. But.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think we have a motion and a second, and I'm just going to call for a vote. Those who are in support of this resolution, 2020-009, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. The resolution will be written up, formalized, and signed. I guess I could even sign it tonight if we go with that date. So, let's see, we are now on to the next page.
The manager is taking over the grant project.
I'm sorry?
The next item is the taking over of the, get it? Our manager made an excellent suggestion to solve the problem with this grant.
You're breaking up, Elliot, sorry.
Oh, we'll just go on to it, that's what it's about.
We are deprived of your wit, unfortunately. The next item is the grant sponsorship for the Atherton Street corridor traffic signal. This is manna from the Department of Transportation and the fellows who are women who noticed that the grant was available. So, okay, I believe that office is in Clearfield, is it? Region 2?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the Clearfield office.
So Doug, if you want to take us through that.
Yeah, tell me, I mean, I'll start and hopefully, I mean, it's a little bit complicated.
Yeah.
The traffic unit at District 2, as noted in the agenda, saw an opportunity to secure some grant funding to improve the traffic signal coordination and operations along the Atherton Street corridor. Now, this includes all of Atherton Street through the center region from Harris Township up through Patton Township. They took the lead on it and submitted an application and kind of left the sponsor blank on it. They did come and talk to the municipalities in January. Originally, they were looking for local matching money. But after those conversations, they went back and talked to the traffic signal folks in the central office and found additional pots of money that could be tapped that would actually pay for the entire project as it's envisioned today. Let me make sure that's clear. But what they still need is a sponsor, which is one of the local municipalities. We had a meeting earlier this month. We went through the project in pretty much detail. We had folks there from all the municipalities, I think except College Township, plus folks from central office, and consultants that PennDOT would use to work on the project. It's Jacobs Engineering, who's very, very, very well qualified to do this type of work. So at this point, we had a discussion. They were looking for a municipality to take the lead sponsor role, which means it would be our project. They are committed to paying for the project. Taking the sponsor role means it's our project. If there's cost overruns, ultimately we would be responsible, but we already talked with them about several strategies. As the project goes forward, there'll be continual reviews of costs and everything. If we're looking at potential more money than what the total amount of the grant, which I can't remember how much it was for. It's in there, $579,000. There are opportunities to go and look for additional funds from others from PennDOT. There are also opportunities to reduce the scope of the project to keep it within that $579,000. Ultimately, if the township, at this point, the board could endorse the project and we would go ahead, be the sponsors and make sure, let it run through the review and approval process from PennDOT. And then if the project is approved, my recommendation is then that we would enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the other municipalities to spread that risk out should it come to pass. At that point, we'd decide how those additional costs could be divvied up between the municipalities. But for right now, all we need to do is endorse the project, say, yes, we're willing to be the lead sponsor, and we think it's a good idea, and we should move forward. Hopefully without going into more detail about exactly what it is. It's a lot of very technical stuff that all those guys understand a little far better than I do.
Oh.
But it's that list of items that's on page, what page are we on the agenda? Page 5, that list that's in blue. That includes upgrades to communications and several other aspects. Now, this is not adaptive, so there's still be opportunity to do one additional upgrade, but this gets us closer to that capability than we would otherwise be.
So I will actually go ahead and entertain a motion, and then we'll, I'm sure, have a bit
I'll
of
make that
discussion.
motion. I move that we approve the way Doug phrased it. Exactly the way he phrased it. I'll make that motion.
Endorsing the project
Endorsing
and the
the project
township's role as sponsor.
And being the lead
A
sponsor.
second, somebody seconded.
I second it.
I hear someone, but I couldn't tell who it was.
Shout out who it was. Elliot?
Yes?
Okay, were you the second?
Yes.
I second.
Who's on first? Sorry.
See if it sounds better.
Okay. I had one suggestion for an amendment to that we add something about spreading out the risk. Should there be cost overruns, seek to spread out the risk with the other two townships, that would be.
Yeah, we
State
can make
College
that a
and
condition that we enter into that agreement.
Yeah.
Ultimately, after
Okay.
we know that we won't sign the grant agreement until we have that agreement with the other partners in place. So
Sounds great.
that's something that once there's an award, there's a time lag, then you get an agreement, and there's another time lag. So, or, you know, there are a few months at least
Okay,
to
so-
put that in place.
And so my other concern, I'm just looking to see if there are other hands raised, is this going to burden you with extra work? I note that the other two townships didn't have the staff. Is that the case
No, I have a
with
good
us?
relationship with the guys at PennDOT,
Okay.
so
Great. Well,
they
thank-
understand that our role will be minimal,
Okay, well-
other than the oversight.
Thank you for agreeing to
Yeah.
take that on. I think it's a worthwhile project. And I wondered if you could just entertain the question of, as well and as briefly as you could, explain the difference between this, between the adaptive traffic signal and this highly technical, but it sounds like it's still human engineered devices that we're getting in this time.
The adaptive systems will change the timing of the traffic signal on their own based on what the traffic flows are and patterns they've seen in the past. So ultimately, and then you can put parameters around how much they can change. And so this, it will take a human sitting in Clearfield at the Traffic Operations Center.
Gotcha.
District 2 has I'm going to call a full-blown traffic operations center that you might see in sort of a movie at a large metropolitan area. District 2 has that. They provide that sort of operations, all the cameras that you see on our highways around here and the message boards that you see along the interstates. They're all controlled through that traffic operations center in Clearfield. They also provide that service for District 9. So they're doing about, I'm going to say maybe 15 counties in central Pennsylvania. But they have the abilities to, when this is done, they will have the ability to actually sit in Clearfield and they will have a menu of different traffic timing plans that they could implement along Atherton Street corridor, literally at the push of a button.
Okay.
Or a mouse click.
Yeah.
So in this case, if they see an incident or something and they need to go into some sort of a, you know, plan B3 or something for, because we need to shift traffic from here to here or something like that, they'll have that ability in Clearfield to do that.
So there's a human behind the button push? And
Yeah.
Okay.
And ultimately, but this provides
Great.
that wireless fiber communication network. That's the key,
Yeah.
that they need to have that between here and Clearfield so that they can do that. And then, I think the fifth bullet down where it talks about signal retiming and special event plans.
Okay.
They have those all set up, and then the command and control software is clicking those buttons to make those event plans go into practice. So.
Well, something tells me that it will be a little more exciting for them than it will be for us, but we will see some
Well,
very,
we should benefit
very
from what
exciting
they're doing.
results from
So.
that. Certainly reduced output from idling traffic. So that's not insignificant. So I think we have a motion and a second. We need a vote.
There's, Anita has a question.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Anita. Yes.
Unmute your mic, Anita.
Yeah, wait, hold on.
There you go.
You got it. Okay.
We're not hearing you. We can't hear you, Anita.
Okay, there. How's that?
Good.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Sorry for my technical learning curve here. Kudos to Doug for stepping up on this as it goes forward and becomes a reality, because traffic concerns have been such an issue, especially in Patton Township. I would hope that we could, as it goes forward, let the public know of this positive development and that Patton Township was taking the lead on it. But thank you, Doug. Well done.
You're welcome.
Great. So ready for a vote? Those in favor of the pursuit of this manna from PennDOT in Clearfield County, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. So Doug, it's your baby now. or theirs, whatever. The next item on our to-do list concerns a request from College Township to consider amendments to the joint zoning agreement. The joint zoning agreement was set up in 2005, and we sort of work with College Township to trade off the need which we as a township have to meet. We have to be able to have room for all legal uses in property in a township, a municipality. And we entered into this agreement in 2005 with College because it was easier for them to handle industrial needs.
No, I doubt so. Easier for them to handle multifamily.
No.
No,
the
it's
other way.
easier for them to handle industrial,
Yeah.
College, and easier for us to handle multifamily.
Yeah, we have a large stock of multifamily property,
uses.
and we had a very low stock of industrial property. So in 2005, it made sense for everybody to enter into that agreement,
Yeah.
so.
So because of that agreement, then both municipalities are answering the need set out by the Municipal Planning Code, a law, that we have to allow for those particular uses. And now there's another use that College Township would like to consider adding to this joint zoning agreement. And there I'm exhausting my area of expertise, and I think Doug or
We're gonna hear from Miss Lindsay Scotch. Is it?
Okay,
Of,
welcome.
let me close my screen. And there's Lindsay.
Hello, Lindsay. Good to meet you.
Hi, everyone.
It's
Thank
in
you
your
so
hands.
much for having me.
Yeah, so take
All right.
away, the expert here.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm just going to give you a brief history and introduction, and then I'll be here to answer any questions you have. So a few months ago, we realized that we've zoned out adult businesses in College Township. And we did this because there is a 1,000-foot buffer requirement on adult businesses that they have to be 1,000 feet from any establishment with a liquor license. So with new liquor license coming in to gas stations and different restaurants and things like that, we now have a space about this big in the township for adult businesses, which is not adequate. So because of that, we are now going through the process of a municipal curative amendment. So we've realized that we have our ordinance is broken, I guess. So we needed to propose cures to council on how to fix it. So we proposed, one of the options is to establish Patton Township as the municipality within the Center Region Comprehensive Plan to be the municipality that provides for this specific use. And the reason why we can share uses across municipal boundaries is like this is because we have a regional comprehensive plan, which we've had for years, but it was just adopted again in 2013. So since we have that plan, we're able to do this as per the requirements of the municipality's planning code. So as you said before, there already is a standing agreement that we have where we share the industrial uses with, swap the industrial uses with multifamily uses. So in the memo that I sent to you, or that Adam sent to you, I helped prepare, we proposed that if you are interested, College Township could take on your gaming establishments if you would like to take on our adult businesses. So we do have other options, but this was the first thing that council really wanted us to move forward with in requesting this from you. So that's why I'm here tonight, to get your input, get your thoughts.
Thank you so much. I know that we do have a lot of thought and a lot of questions on this, so I will open it up to other board members, and I see Dan's hand first, so Dan, go ahead.
We're always on good terms with College Township and their municipal officials, and I'm certainly receptive to seeing if there are ways that we can help each other out. In this particular case, my reluctance to go along with it has to do with what would Patton Township citizens' benefit be. My understanding is that, and I talked to Adam Brumbaugh, your township manager, on the phone a couple of days ago about it. If we went ahead with this, that it still does not preclude a gaming establishment from setting up operation in Patton Township if they qualify, if the property they want to use qualifies. Certainly we can encourage them to consider College Township properties, but I don't see how we can prevent such a gaming establishment from
We'd have to rewrite, we'd have to revise our regulations, but we would do it in such a way that it would say all gaming establishments would be in College Township, in these zones in College Township.
And in return, under this agreement, then any adult businesses that applied to set up shop in College or Patton would then, by default, have to be in Patton if we entered into this agreement.
All right, that's one possibility. To me, the simplest resolution for College Township is simply change their ordinance for adult business and drop from the exclusion properties with a liquor license. It says here they can use the buffer requirement. It means that such an establishment cannot be within 1,000 feet of a church, school, residential district boundary line, and liquor license. If they just remove the words liquor license from that restriction, then they wouldn't have the problem. So I'll go back to my concern. What's the benefit for Patton Township citizens if we agree to this? I don't really see much of a benefit.
And I'm sure other members have comments, but I wanted to just follow up on what Dan said. I made a cost-benefit chart. We have the two options, since both townships have to be able to accommodate any request, and those two options would be adult businesses and a casino. They both have a cost, they both have benefits. I'm going to go with the benefits first, and the benefits would be in tax returns, or taxes that we would get from both businesses, and then also any benefits from spin-off businesses that would benefit from people coming in to use either the adult business establishment or the casino. And I think when you weigh the adult business versus the casinos in the benefits, I think the benefits of having a casino outweigh the adult business. I'm not an expert in economics, but that just is my gut assessment. And then if we look at the costs of both those establishments, we're looking at the issue of crime, devaluation of property value or increase in property value. We're looking at any mental health offspins, and I know there's certainly data, I'm more familiar with the data on casinos. We're also looking at traffic issues. So I think it's, for what I don't see any benefit in entering into it, and if we were to think about entering into it, I would want to have a more detailed analysis of this cost benefit. would we rather have a casino than an adult business? I don't know. With that, I will see if other board members want to make a comment, and comments that haven't already been made, so that we can expedite things from here. Yes, Elliot.
I don't know if we can consider this in just by itself, because when we entered into the whole agreement, there were pluses and minuses, I guess, for both of the townships. And the way it was worked out was to try to even those out. And I just want to make sure that, let's say if we didn't want to go along with this, that we weren't causing unnecessary problems with the rest of the agreement.
Okay. Great. And Anita, Pam, anything to add to that?
Speaking, go ahead, Pam.
Okay.
Pam,
Yeah.
I
Anything
just have
new?
a question for Lindsay. What were the other options? You said Patton Township was number one on the list. So what are your other options besides Patton Township?
Okay, good question. We do have a few more options. One, of course, would be, as Dan mentioned, that we would just take away that buffer requirement and amend our zoning ordinance. One of the other options, which the council felt was a stronger option, would be to create an overlay where we would allow both gaming establishments and adult uses. And if we did that, then we wouldn't really have to worry about churches or schools or anything like that locating near the adult business, because they would be coming to the adult business rather than the adult business, being surrounded by them. So that would establish an area in the township for just those specific uses, as well as whatever underlying zoning permits as well. Also, we could change the buffers, from, say, 1,000 feet, which is pretty typical that you would see in Pennsylvania, to maybe 750 feet from a liquor license, or possibly even 500 feet, which opens up more area in the township for adult businesses to be permitted.
Thank you.
And
Had you actually considered asking other townships, other municipalities? Just curious.
We thought that since we already have the standing agreement with Patton Township, that it would be, it would make sense to go to you first. Since currently I believe adult businesses could come into the township just as a basic commercial use. So we felt that Patton Township would be the safest way, first one to ask, because we're really not asking to do anything different, since the use is already allowed in the township.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Anita.
And Anita.
Yes.
I understand.
Just a brief comment on the casino matter. I was present at the hearing, I believe in 2017, where Patton Township had the opportunity to decline to be in the state pool for casinos. The public turnout for that was very clear in my mind against wanting casinos in Patton Township. The public really turned out for that. The second item, because I agree with Dan, we want to be as supportive of College Township as we can in different ways. I was looking on Google Earth regarding the Nittany Mall and the 1,000 feet related to Sheets and the Mexican, the raise, the other thing. And of course, I don't know how the property line issues go, but it seemed to me it was 1,200 feet if there was an AOB there at that corner of the former Bonton, that you'd be within, you'd be 1,200 feet from Sheets, you'd be 1,200 feet from the Mexican restaurant, and I don't know if there are other restaurants in that area. So I'm wondering if there are possibilities as you spend your life on Google Earth to find other possibilities.
Yeah, thanks for that comment. I just wanted to make note concerning the turnout for the casinos. That was for a very specific kind of casino, a mini casino that was connected to a larger casino. And in regards to a regular casino, we don't have a choice. If somebody wants to come in, they have every right to look at it. So it was specifically for minis. And I'll also point out that we were only looking at casinos. We were not weighing casinos versus adult business. So, yeah. So, yeah, but good point. So I guess, anybody else have a?
The solicitor wanted to.
Oh, where? Yes, please.
I just wanted to ask, and maybe this is premature, Doug, but it seems to me that we would need to make a similar analysis in our own township about possible locations for any adult facilities should we choose to do this. I mean, both of these townships have similar issues, which is they have a lot of portions of the areas that permit these uses that are already built out. So, and maybe Doug, you just want to comment on that. I would think it would then go back, if the board pushed this forward, then we would do an analysis of that to see if we could really realistically accept those uses should that arise.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the uses, sorry. The uses are permitted in any commercial zone in Patton Township or any other area that permits commercial uses, which would include mixed-use areas like Toftrey's planned community. We don't specifically zone for adult businesses or casinos. They would be included in the class of retail uses that are permitted anywhere. As I noted in the agenda, I recall asking the prior manager about the issue way back when, and he said, you know, our strategy or our philosophy has been such that we keep very vibrant, strong retail markets in this township, and those are types of businesses that don't want to pay top dollar for land or rent. So in the 30s between manager Kurtz and manager and me, since 1984, we haven't even had a ghost of anyone trying to locate an adult business in Patton Township. The closest adult business we're aware of is obviously on the other side of Bald Eagle Ridge, over towards Port Matilda. So the township's never done anything beyond that. And gaming establishments has not been an issue because until lately, I mean, they've been tightly regulated by the state, and they've probably a more likely chance of having a gaming establishment come to Patton Township than an adult business, but obviously that's my own personal professional opinion at this point. Did that answer your question, solicitor? Or did I miss?
Yeah, I just wanted to draw that attention, you know, because I think when we look at these uses across the state, there's also obviously a lot of dislike of them is the better way to say that. And so the way in which we zone for them is to make sure that they're in areas where we know they aren't going to conflict with other uses. And I noted talking about what would happen in College Township, but I think Patton has to also look at their regs and make sure if they decide to move forward with this, and make sure that they are comfortable with where those would be located and how they would interact with uses in those areas. That's all.
Okay, great. So I think, thank you, solicitor. So it appears that before us now.
Elliot had another.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Elliot. Yes, please.
Too bad we can't have a use like that in the middle of a pyrite area.
In the middle of a what area?
Pyrite.
in view of the thing in 2017, I think Anita is correct that we had a lot of people. At that time, we had a different question, because if we didn't borrow them at that point, we could never say that we could borrow them again. And so we had to take that action right then, because that was our only opportunity to do that. That's just a historical perspective.
Yeah.
So at this point before us is, I guess one option is to refer this to the Planning Commission. This question. I personally would, the Planning Commission has a lot on their plate right now with the affordable housing, and I think they're doing a phenomenal job on that, and I know it's a lot of work. I am inclined to respectfully decline this outreach from College Township until College has explored other options, and I respect them for reaching out, and certainly don't want any ill feelings around this. But to ask our Planning Commission to take this on at the time when they're taking on the affordable housing, which I think is also a very a dire need in this entire community, I wouldn't be in favor of kicking it down to them. Any other comments?
I agree with you.
Okay.
Another comment.
Yes, Elliot.
I just want to make sure, though, that since this thing that we agreed to includes other items, we should look over what those are to make sure that we aren't ruining something, a good thing that we already have with the rest of that agreement.
What other items does it include? I thought it was.
No, I mean, if the board takes no action today, it has no impact on that existing agreement.
Okay.
The agreement stands as is.
Yeah.
All right, well, in other words, I don't want to turn down something that would eventually ruin an agreement that we basically like.
Doesn't sound like it would.
Yeah, no, and
jeopardize that.
every time we make any change to our if we rezone something from multifamily housing to something else, we have to get College Township's opinion on it. Not their concurrence, but their opinion. In the same way, if they were gonna change any of their industrial zoning to something else, then they're obligated by the agreement to come get our opinion. So the agreement gets reviewed, I'm gonna say every 3 or 4 years as minor changes come up.
All right.
So any other comments? Do we just simply
Well, somebody could
acknowledge?
move to make a choice one way or the other, or if there's no motion, then the issue would just die for lack of a motion. And I think College Township will get the message.
Okay. And please don't hesitate to approach us again, College Township, and in fact, maybe even on the same issue. So right now, it just does not seem like a viable path for us to take, with especially with the issue of affordable housing that the Planning Commission is spending a lot of time on. And we thank you for considering us, and it was a very creative, thinking outside the box solution. So we may.
Well, thank you for your consideration. And we will definitely, we'll look forward to continuing our working together on the other things that we already have the agreement.
Awesome.
So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Great, thanks for your time.
Lindsay, if you could just shoot me an email at some point in the future, just so I can let the board know what other options you guys, just keep them updated.
Okay, we'll keep you posted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We are moving on to committee assignments for Supervisor Tees. And again, welcome. This is, I think, one of the fun parts of being a supervisor. A lot of
Let me
concentrated
pull up
work that's done.
I can pull up your
great.
spreadsheet.
We're working with 2 spreadsheets, one that is in the agenda, which lists committee appointments essentially by committee. The spreadsheet that I made also list committee appointments by people. I set it up initially because I was wondering if Mr. Trevino was overloaded with committees. His name seemed to be appearing everywhere. So you'll note on the committee, on the spreadsheet that has a little color-coded bar in the middle, the yellow bar is essentially represents a summary of the who is on how many committees, COG committees, and that would be the top part of the graph. So the summation works down the column. And the green highlighted bar, which unfortunately is hard to read, the summation works up from the listed, it's really hard to read, commissions, consortiums, and other committees, other than the official COG committees. The upper set of committees, the COG committees, tend to have a little more work, although not necessarily, or they tend to meet on a monthly basis. And the committees on the bottom half of the chart that are summed up, those would be what I maybe call Patton Township or area committees. Tend to maybe not meet once a month, or maybe don't have as much of a commitment. But in any event, I guess if we start with the COG committees, and the original proposal was for Ms. Tees to essentially step into the assignments that Jessica Buckland had previous. So that would be to be the representative on two committees, Human Resources and Parks Capital. And can't remember if I talked to you directly about that. I think I did, one-on-one, Anita. But how would you feel?
These are fine.
Okay. And then,
These are all great.
And then being the alternate on the Public Safety Committee, does that suit you?
Yes, that'd be wonderful.
Okay. Looking at the bottom part of the chart, one thing that struck me, and I did talk with Supervisor Trevino about this, I shared the chart with him, and we talked one-on-one, which of course we can do under the Sunshine Law, was that neither Ms. Tees nor Ms. Robb had any of the assignments to the Patton committees. And Dan and I came up with a suggestion that maybe Ms. Robb would replace me on the committee listed in the bottom line. That would be the ABC committee, the selection of people to serve on the authority boards and commissions. And then Ms. Tees could be the representative on the Open Space Stewardship Committee, which I currently hold, but I could be an alternate to that. And either way, I would attend as an interested citizen. I love that committee. It's very active, and I've become very familiar with the Haw property that it oversees. So, Anita, does that sound like something?
That would be great. Yes, that would be fine.
Okay. You had expressed an interest in that earlier. And then
Yes.
And then Pam, you're okay being on the ABC committee with Elliot?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Let me point out, there's one correction
Oh, yes, thank
we
you.
discovered, Doug. On the Finance Committee, the alternate is Elliot Abrams, not
Okay.
Betsy.
Yeah.
Betsy went back to review that meeting where these were done, and it was clear that Elliot agreed to be the alternate.
Okay, good.
I will note, because Dan promised that he would not miss any of the meetings.
Okay, so I will update your list and then
Great.
run it by you to check and make sure I got it all right,
Sounds good.
correct this time, so.
Okay, sounds great.
And that's,
So that's the hard work, I think. We're on to the consent agenda, and Doug, I'll let you handle the...
there's several items on the consent agenda. There's a line painting contract, which is an annual thing Ferguson Township does for us, and we need to approve our portion of it. There's a grant resolution for future work in Burnell Road Park, then the voucher report for last month, the minutes for 2 meetings last month, there is a resolution that I did draft, kept it pretty vanilla about asking for direct federal aid. If you want to talk about that more, we can, probably a little bit later. And then there was an item, we approved a cost sharing agreement for the solar power purchase group back in January. It got revised at the request of the State College Area School District, who's the lead on that project. There were some minor changes to that agreement, so we wouldn't have to reapprove it tonight. Request that the board consider the agenda item and approve as is.
So do I first ask if there are any items on here that anybody wishes to pull out of the consent agenda to discuss individually? If not, I'll seek a motion to approve the items that are on the consent.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Second then.
Okay. Any more discussion after there was none initially? If not, those in favor of approving the items under the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Public safety, and Tyler, Chief Jolly's still there.
Yes.
There he is, you're
Thank you.
backlit. Hard to see you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So you have the copy of the March 2020 Public Safety report in your agenda. You'll note that we had 97 traffic stops. We wrote 48 citations, 15 parking tickets, and had seven criminal arrests. We did not do any bike patrol in the month of March. However, I did want to note we rely on bike patrol very heavily right now as we enforce the social distancing at the parks. So they've ridden about 70 miles already in the month of April. Some of the department notes from the month of March: we had a 22-year-old male arrested on domestic violence charges after he slapped his girlfriend on the cheek. A 36-year-old male was arrested for theft by deception for passing a bad check from a frozen or blocked account. He passed a $4,000 check at a local business here. A 51-year-old female was arrested for DUI following a motor vehicle crash. The female is also facing a charge of endangering the welfare of a child because she had 2 juvenile passengers in the vehicle she was driving. We also had a 34-year-old male who was cited for trespassing in the Circleville Park after dark. The officers learned that the male had a bench warrant from the Center County Sheriff's Office and subsequently took him into custody and transported him to the jail on that warrant. We had 2 individuals arrested for DUI and 1 for retail theft. And the officers served 2 warrants of the 3. On the back of the first page, we have a really good recovery story. It was actually shared by Pet Recovery of Patton County on Facebook. On March 9th, our officers were dispatched to the area of Skytop Lane. A resident there had found I believe it was a 6-month-old black lab puppy in a storm drain there. So they called. The officer did a really good job of tracking down the owner's information by calling the vet from the rabies tags on the dog. The vet was able to provide us with information for the owners. Had a very, very, very happy family when we were able to bring their dog home. We found out that the dog actually had been missing for about 2 weeks and was last seen in the area of Black and Shannon. And like I said, it made it the whole way over to Skytop Lane. So they had quite the journey, but they were very, very happy to have their dog home. Like I said, they did a nice write-up on Facebook, so I included the post that they had there for you. Some of the monthly department training and activities, officer kind of got cut short about halfway through the month. Pretty much everything kind of got shut down as far as training goes, but the first half of the month, we sent Officer Pinocchio to wiretap training put on by the Pennsylvania State Police. Officer Snyder attended a background investigation in Wilkes-Barre. Officer Schaefer and Tuskovich attended task force response team training. And Sergeant Stroud attended a defensive tactics instructor recertification that was held here at Ferguson Township. I attended a RMS analytics demo, participated in the Alpha Fire Company agency study, and attended numerous meetings related to the COVID-19 outbreak. Last 11 pages are the record list of our calls from our records management system. You can see that we had a total of 327 calls for service. Our requests for assistance, we had 53 of those, followed by health and safety with 52 are the biggest portion of calls for service that we handled. Ms. Rob asked a little bit about it before the meeting started, just to give you a little bit of an update on where we stand with calls related to some of the governor's orders. Our agency's handled about 20 calls, 1 for an employee not wearing a mask at a business, 2 for customers not wearing masks over the last couple of days since the masking order has gone into effect. We've had 5 for contractors working on residences, 5 for businesses in violation of his order, and then 8 different calls for social distancing issues. Again, mostly of those in the parks, basketball courts. We had a barbecue at one as well. But again, we're really proactively handling those with our bike patrol. They've been out hitting the park pretty hard and really making sure that we're educating the public on the order. So
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, thanks especially for responding to the report, your concern that there were some young people playing basketball and another group of young people on the tennis courts. The report came to me, I called the manager called the chief. The chief sent somebody out on the bike patrol. So thank you for that. And I'll also note that I listened in on the Recreational Activity Advisory Committee yesterday, and members on that who are great frequenters in the parks were concerned about violations of not just the lack of social distancing, but small kids on the jungle gym equipment. And I explained that the chief was sending out patrols on a pretty regular basis. They may not be there all the time, but it was better than not having anybody go at all. So they appreciated that. So thank you very much. Any other questions or kudos for the chief?
Kudos.
Okay. Let's see. I think we need to now go to this Spring Road report, which I learned upon reading was not about Spring Road. I was trying to figure out where that was in Patton Township, but it's
Right, that's all
time of
under
the year.
item 9.
Okay, for sure.
But we should,
Is that just a report?
that's just a report. We can
Okay.
talk about it later. It's under the manager's report. I mean,
Okay. Oh,
tried to
okay.
include all those in one written report.
Mm-hmm.
There's no action needed on those, but I think the next real discussion item is item 7A, budget impacts due to COVID-19.
So shall we just move on to that? There is in our packet, a report from the Planning Commission, and then there's a nice.
Yeah, there's an item, just that the Planning Center Regional Planning Commission's annual report's available at that link.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is an update from Planning Commission also included under item 9A. If you want to talk about that, we can a little bit later.
Okay, so shall we move on to item 7A, which is going to be a biggie? That
Yeah.
would be the budget impacts due to COVID-19.
I don't think we need a whole lot of introduction. We all understand what's going on. I'm going to let Larry run through the numbers here, and he's the guy who has all the information on this, but if you want to just run through that.
Yeah, I'll run through it. So we have in payroll, we're identifying the time that people are working from home, actually working for the township from home. So we also have people that we have on leave, and we're paying them basically to stay home to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. So the amount that we paid so far as of this week, which was a pay week, so it's as of this week, for the people that are staying home, for instance, the receptionist can't really work from home because she can't answer the phones from there, so she's at home on leave. So far, we have spent $78,509 on that. We also had additional expenses for getting Zoom, getting Go to My PC, which is we're using to work from home if you're working from home. the document, the exchange, Dropbox, and we have spent $4,700 on those. For personal safety supplies, which are the masks and the glasses and Purell and stuff like that, we have spent $150 on. So that's so far the expenses we have incurred due to the coronavirus. The next set of numbers on the agenda are my estimate. I would say in a worst case scenario, what's going to be the possible reductions to our revenues. So real estate taxes, since most of our real estate taxes really come in, we're getting 40% of or 60% of our taxes by the end of this month. And currently we're tracking at that level. So, and a lot of that comes in from escrow accounts, which the people have already paid for anyway, so we're going to get that money. I'm estimating that real estate taxes may be down by 10% due to people not being able to pay or whatever for the rest of the year. Earned income taxes, this may be done up to 35%, depending on what Penn State does. So we get 40% of our earned income tax from university employees. So if Penn State lays off their employees, that will affect our earned income tax substantially. We're obviously going to have an effect based on the fact that unemployment is going to be high. It's going to be a lot higher if Penn State lays off. But unemployment's still going to be higher in the center region, in my estimation. So I'm looking at those numbers, and local services taxes will track with those. They lay people off, the dollar a week that the people are paying is not going to get paid. Police services to Penn State and others, there's two main items in there. One being the school resource officer, who is not currently working at the school, so we're not currently, charging the school district for his time because he's not at the school. And football games, like the blue-white game being, we aren't going to receive the money to cover the cost. However, on the other side of that, we're not going to pay for the overtime in the football game either. So that will kind of offset it. But that's why that number is up to 70%. Court fees might be down a little bit. That's more of a, I guess, in zoning permits, because we're not issuing them. It's going to be down. So that comes out to about, I'm gonna say it was a little bit over 10% of the total revenue of the budget. So to get the total, to get an offset of the 10% in the expenditures, we're going to, obviously a lot of the training and seminars have been canceled, so we don't have those expenses. We're deferring the new personnel, being new police officers, we're deferring the communications person, those types of, that were added to the budget. We're going to hold off until either later in the year or the beginning. We're not going to transfer money from the general fund to some of the dedicated funds that are at the back of the budget. The funds that are back there, like the police car fund and the street light, not street lights, traffic light funds. We're going to hold off on allocating that money, keep it in the general fund so we can use it there. We're going to reassign some expenses that we would pay out of the general fund that are eligible to be paid out of like the liquid fuels tax fund, and we'll pay it out of liquid fuels tax, or we'll pay it out of the Parks and Rec fund. The project deferrals is deferring a lot of those projects that are on a specific project list in the CIP. So we push
Yeah.
those off.
There's a little bit of an asterisk to one of those projects we can talk about a little bit.
Yeah. The other adjustments, and what do you mean by programmatic changes, Doug?
I can't remember exactly. Let me see, that was on the list. I think that was the police stuff.
Yeah, because you totaled those together.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly.
The other things are just, delaying.
No, the other adjustments, that was the police. That was police for football games.
Right, well, yeah, police for football games and delaying some of the expenses that we have. Also, some of the expenses will be less because we're not using the amount of electricity that we normally use. We're not using the amount of gas that we normally use.
Yeah, and, fees for, tax collections would be down.
Yeah, tax collection fees would be done.
Yeah, so.
Those types of things, so there are those. So that is a little bit over 10% of the revenue. I mean, of the expenditures to agree with the 10% of the revenue. And what's not really on here that still could be on there is if we have to do anything with current employees.
Well, it's that list that's on the next page of things we haven't done yet, but which we
Things
could.
we haven't done yet. Whether we lay off or furlough employees, I would, what we do with pay reductions. Refinance our debt. If we need to take out a short-term loan, we are able to do that. And if we want to, we can make a loan. We probably will be looking at a real estate tax increase in 2021.
Okay.
At least.
Dan, yes.
Just a couple of quick questions. You didn't include liquid fuels tax as a potential decline.
No, because we already got our liquid fuels tax money for this year.
For 2020.
Correct, yeah.
So it only impact us in 2021.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. Second thing, I know you already mentioned this to me, Doug, but you can talk about deferred projects.
Yeah, one of the when we were preparing the budget, the Valley Vista Bikeway project, remember, we had bid it out, and we were at the point of, the bids came in higher than the money that we had. So when we were budgeting in September and October, we put in the full cost of that project, which was 1.6, for which we had 1.0. Between then, when we budgeted, and by the time we got to the end of the year, PennDOT had come up with another $350,000 for us for that project. And then if you take out what Ferguson Township's going to pay, we still will have to put in about 80 to 120,000 of our own funds into that project. But that is in the budget. So there's about $500,000 that was in that project that we don't need, that ends up now in the project deferral. So, I hate to say we're fortunate or something, but, we got those monies dedicated from PennDOT late in the year, so we do have that extra cushion to get us through, help us get through this.
And the other project deferrals, anything significant we need to be aware of?
Let me see, I got a list here. Which list? Oh, projects. So the Valley Vista Bikeway, that was the one. There was some stormwater projects, 80,000 in stormwater projects that we will put off, delay for a year. And none of this is critical work, it's just work that needs to be, we can't put these things off year to year to year. They need to be done, but we can put them off for a year. There's about $105,000 in road projects. There was $20,000 which is the license plate reader that the police had budgeted, and then $26,000 for the website that we were looking at updating to. So those are that's the rest of the project money.
So my comment is, if we have to choose between a laundry list of things we can cut, to preferentially cut or preferentially keep items that will employ others. So the roads project work over the website. The website obviously is going to employ some people too, but I think of maybe a roads project employing local people. And there was another, I can't think of another example. The license plate tracker, you know, that's a an item. It's not giving work to other people. Okay. So just using that as a guideline. Any comments from our visitors, our board members from afar? Yes.
Sam.
I have a question. Any of the conferences that we have been planning to attend, do we get a refund back from any of those that might have been canceled, like the one in Hershey?
We're going to get refunds. I don't know if we have yet or not, but everything from PSATs will get refunded.
Yeah, the only one that we really paid for was PSATs.
Colorado, yeah.
In Palras, and there's, yeah. And they said we were gonna get our money back. Whether we got it back yet or not, or if it's in process, we're gonna get our money back.
Thank you. I was just curious, every little bit else.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Anita, Elliot, Anita, yes.
No comment.
I am presuming under the deferring personnel, that would include the money that was set aside for a new communications person. And I certainly support that. I think that's an important deferral. It's more important we keep our police officers and other staff rather than something like a communications person. However, I wondered if on a future agenda, we might have a discussion about communications. Are there any other ways to help with communication needs in the township? I think the current staff is doing a wonderful job of communicating, but I'm concerned it become an overload as communication needs increase at the same time that support for them doesn't. I just wondered if that could be a future agenda discussion item.
I think Doug's writing it down, even as you speak.
Yeah, that's a doctor, he sets the agenda.
Great.
But yeah, we could talk about that in the future.
Yeah. And Elliot, did you have something to say? Did I remember?
No, I'm just watching the situation.
Just watching.
Just so you know, Elliot, we are being fiscally responsible.
No, you're doing everything that's fiscally possible.
That's exactly right.
So we'll keep an eye on these numbers. Again, the revenue, at this point, we really haven't seen a decrease.
At this point in the revenue, I'll know more next month on earned income tax. Our real estate tax is actually tracking ahead of last year, ahead of what it normally is. So that's good. So is our real estate tax. I mean, our earned income tax year to date is tracking ahead of what it normally is. But that's without the first quarter numbers coming in yet. So when the first quarter numbers come in, that hits all the employers that only pay on a quarterly basis, and we'll see if those numbers are less than what they normally are.
Yeah, again, I think we're like everybody else, waiting just to see what Penn State ultimately decides to do with the bulk of their folks. So, and that, you know, they're planning day to day like we are. You know, we could probably figure out what's going to happen in a week, but beyond that, it gets fuzzy. 3 weeks out's really fuzzy,
Yeah.
so.
We are discussing.
I mean, it's good, the governor, I mean, we are, today I started putting together some guidance for employees for going back to, getting back to more full employment. I think that week of May 11th, we'll have everybody on the road crew back working. We probably have enough work where we can keep everybody occupied. We won't be able to do everything we probably want to do, but we should be able to do that. And then we'll probably reopen the building slowly like we closed it down. First, we'll let people into the lobby. And then, as people get more confident that we're all going to be healthy and that we can socially distance appropriately and work together, we'll keep getting more things. We'll have to go back to doing permitting come May 11th, May 8th. I guess May 8th, we'll have to, issue, I don't know that we have any permits pending right now, but we'll get those ready to go so that we can issue those the morning of May 8th for construction. I know there's a lot of contractors that want to get back to work, but we're working towards moving the staff back into in the office more and doing more of that stuff. So it's still going to be a week-to-week thing, but that's where we're going. We'll update these numbers and keep you apprised, and we'll take your counsel, Betsy, to if we can keep people employed doing things locally, then we'll do those and opt to defer those other payments. So.
Sounds good. Great, so it looks like we are now moving right along to the manager's report.
Yeah, I included some information from the census. They've pushed all those deadlines back. At the exec committee yesterday, there was discussion with our government liaison, Sharima Young from Penn State, about the outreach they're doing to make sure that the off-campus students report correctly that their place of residence as of April 1 was Patton Township, or State College Borough is that. The Town and Gown Association is working with the federal government to make whatever changes need to be made to the census to make sure that all the college communities get counted correctly, so we aren't severely undercounted, which some people are afraid of. So also there was an update from Nicole Pollack on Planning Commission things. We'll be ramping Planning Commission activities back up, I think, in May, doing some work on affordable housing. Spring road report was included with the agenda. There was a list in there about roads we'll be looking at for this year. As we noted, at this point, we're not going to spend any general fund monies on road repairs, only liquid fuel tax money, so that will reduce that list probably somewhat. But Mr. Casson is moving forward on getting that contract ready to go out to bid in May. And then there was we had a slight uptick on housing starts in March, and last month we have issued 0. So the development update was included from the zoning officer, and there was a few upcoming events. One I need to add back on there is that the primary election will be June 2nd in Pennsylvania. That's the end of my report.
Committee reports. We didn't have a lot of committee meetings, but we did have an executive committee meeting, and we have the esteemed Mr. Abrams to report on that for us.
Basic thing I said at the beginning was that if there was anything that was the slightest bit controversial or needed more than just a rubber stamp approval, I wanted us to have a process where we talked about the thing at exec, that we brought it back to our respective municipalities discussion. And I think there's general agreement with that we should do that.
Yeah, thank you for that, Elliot.
Yes, which is great.
Did you notice, Betsy, did you notice anything else
Well,
at that?
it was something something specific, one of the specific subjects that we will be discussing as a board, and I was going to mention it to Doug when we get down to looking at upcoming meetings, and that is the suggestion by the staff at COG to reconfigure some of the committees, the COG committees. I think they've put a lot of thought into that, but it's something that the individual boards, individual members of the general forum need to have input, but we will do that in the form of having a discussion amongst ourselves as a board, and then that information will be relayed to the executive committee to be making decisions. One committee in particular will be important soon and probably well into the future, and that is the, Elliot, you can help me. It's
Sustainability and solar.
It's the carbon,
Carbon
adaptation and sustainability plan.
Yes.
That's what it is. I should have
And we
written
also
down the acronym.
We also asked the staff to summarize their thoughts about the committee structure in the next 2 weeks, so that we all have time to look at it before the next meeting next month.
Right, yeah. So Doug will need to add that to the agenda for the first meeting in May. And there's quite a bit of information that was gathered. I think you sat in on the executive committee meeting when there was.
Yeah, I listened in. I'll have to get additional information
Yeah.
from Eric and Scott at COG, so.
And, yeah, and who's the head of planning? Jim May.
Jim May,
I'm
yeah.
thinking him, yeah. I think he had a lot of input. So, yeah, I'm sure there's more information coming. I'm excited about the discussion because I think it's a good, we sort of have the time to have that discussion. There's not a whole lot else we can actively do, but we can be thinking. It's nice to have time to think. Next, Elliot, anything more to say on the executive committee? If not, I'll.
No, I think that our new director asked whether we should actually have the meeting in Patton Township at the end of May, and my answer at the time was that it looked like that might not be a good idea, because if we are having the general forum meeting at a place, it should be at a larger venue than the township
Right.
office.
Yeah.
Township.
For sure. And we may not be even allowed with those numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
said we'd love to host it, but we don't want to jeopardize anyone.
Right, right. So I'm going to pass the baton to Mr. Trevino, who's going to talk about the Finance Committee. Work session.
Committee, the main item was expecting a report from Chris Gibbons on his negotiation with Fulton Bank on revising the regional parks loan. The outcome was that Fulton Bank was postponing any discussion because of their the virus problems and so forth. They just weren't able to devote any time to considering it, so that's still postponed. We won't know until next month.
Hopefully we'll have.
Hopefully we'll know something next month. I don't think there was anything else substantial, unless you can think of something, Larry, that.
No, their update on the financial impact of COVID-19 is the same as mine. They haven't seen anything yet, so they don't know.
Okay.
Okay. And then, as I say, a number of committees, standing committees were canceled. We jumped down to this, the State College Waterboro Authority. I don't got anything from Pat Monteith. The Cable Area Consortium. Dan, did you meet? Have anything?
No, the
Okay.
Cable Area Consortium is not scheduled to meet unless something comes up.
Okay.
Because we've already negotiated a contract.
That's what I thought.
with
They'll
the
they'll probably have one meeting a year
Okay,
until,
gotcha.
for the next 5 years.
And then anything from Mr. Hurley on the Spring Creek watershed?
No,
Okay. CCMPO, that was me, and I'm remiss in not pulling together the information from that. I forgot to check over my notes, so I apologize. Okay.
the only report from the airport authority is parking is free,
Hey, okay,
because it's not worth having somebody out there to collect.
Yeah.
okay. So I noticed that we can adjourn before we have more information, so I guess we can just read the more information.
Yeah, there's some,
Okay,
just, those are for the public, and those are the links and the numbers that we're
okay,
pushing out to the public. If you have questions, you need assistance or something,
gotcha.
those are the best places that we can recommend that you go.
That's it.
Great. Yes,
If I
Dan?
may, I have a couple
Yes,
short
please.
things that I want to mention. Today is the 50th anniversary of the formation of Earth Day,
Yes, thank
which
you.
has been widely publicized. I'm sure the public knows about it, but I am enheartened that in looking back over 50 years, all the great strides that have been made.
Yes.
And all the great changes for the benefit, doing what we can to try to prevent further degradation of our environment and implementing processes to improve our environment in various ways.
You're here.
So I'm very happy with that.
Yes.
And the other thing I would mention is we just received notice today that curbside recycling pickup will resume next week. So I just dumped a big load of recycling in the dumpster out here. I won't have to do that next week
Yeah,
because
that's
I
great.
can leave it on the curb.
Great. Any other
One
news
other item.
announcement? Pardon?
Elliot
Other
has
item.
one other.
In conjunction with Earth Week, I saw that actually it's the 50th anniversary of the announcement that at this time, back then 50 years ago, 40,000 of our soldiers had lost their lives in the Vietnam War. And we've now exceeded that number with the COVID deaths in the country. Totally different situation, of course. But I was struck when I saw the coincidence.
Yeah. Some good news and some sobering news. Thank you. Yeah.
Both bad.
Any other news at any end of the continuum? If not,
Yes, sir.
oh,
Hello.
hello Pam. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. Before we adjourn, I know Madam Chair and myself, I spoke about if it is all possible with a small funding, and can we donate pizzas, sandwiches, Jersey Mike to either the Mount Nittany Hospital workers that are working on this COVID-19, or real people working in Lifelink, or either Meals to Wheels, and donate it in the name of the board and the staff. And Patton Township appreciates the hard work, the effort. We know that it's a life and death situation with this virus. And we truly appreciate the time that they're taking and the efforts to save lives, whether, in the grocery stores, in the nursing homes. We appreciate them. So if it is all possible, can we extend that?
Yeah, it's up to the board. You have discretion to do that. I would say the Council of Governments already made a $15,000 donation to Meals on Wheels. They did that way back in, I think, mid-March, but if the board would like to do something, give me an
Oh, yeah,
amount you might like to spend, and we'll look into opportunities.
Is
If
that
we
some,
can get in touch with Sean, maybe Sean, at the, emergency management, he might have an idea.
where the need is?
I can go through our emergency management coordinator and see if he knows if there's an additional need out there. And then I'll report back to the board.
Yeah. Can you wait 2 weeks? Is that okay, Pam? And we can bring it up and have a proposal in our next board meeting?
Sure.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, I think it's great.
Don't go away right away.
Yeah. So maybe all of us in our respective circles of concern come up with ideas, and we can discuss one-on-one with each other, but bring ideas.
Okay, I'll put an item on the agenda.
Great, thank you. Thank you,
People have-
Peter. That was a great idea.
Want to throw in let me put it this way, why don't we, if board members have ideas, or why don't you run them through Betsy?
Okay,
And then you can let me know if there's some consensus or anything, or
sounds good.
I'll consult with you next
Yeah.
week.
It reminds me that certain neighborhoods are collecting drives on their own, and one in our neighborhood is collecting
Great,
food once
yeah.
a week. And it's being picked up at our mailboxes on Monday, and donated to the YMCA across town for their food.
Wow.
Okay. So a lot
Thank you.
A lot of good stuff out there. We'll just add to it. Thank you, everyone. In this strange time, we come together and make it a little less strange. We hope.
I move we adjourn.
Second? Oh, there we go. See, hand up. Okay, we're adjourned.